Chris, Dave, good to see you both in person in your own office.
Yes,
Thank you for inviting us.
good to see you. Thank you for coming.
It's been a huge opportunity for Shakudo working with CentralReach, and we've made a lot of progress as a company as a result. So I'd love to start by just hearing your vision for CentralReach. What is CentralReach mission, and where you're going in the next few years, and then we'll talk a bit more about AI and other topics.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're right in front of what we call our Lives Touchboard. And so, at its core, the mission for Central Reach is really to, provide software and services to therapists, special educators, job coaches, and others who work with um, children and individuals on the autism spectrum and with broader IDDs and to help them improve outcomes, really, at the end of the day, and help accelerate their path to improving those outcomes. And so that's, I think, at our core, the mission that we have. So we provide the technology to those that are working with the community to really help them do a better job, improve kind of the work that they do, um, and accelerate, like we said, the outcomes. And so one of the important things that we try to keep in front of us, in addition to things like revenue and expense and all the other business stuff, is really how many lives are we touching, right? How many lives are our customers touching? How many sessions are being done um, with those clients? And that I think helps keep us all grounded in terms of why are we here, and why is what we're doing matter.
It's a great KPI for a business to have, if you think about it, number of lives touched, right? It's not about, I mean, of course you measure revenue and everything like every other business, but just like how many lives are impacted, it's
Mhm.
pretty inspiring. And this is a space that's emerging as a very fast growing space in technology, because of course in the problem is there, but technology took some time to catch up. So uh, this is more my own curiosity. Where do you see the biggest impact of technology, central reach, but also then AI potentially on the lives of the patient?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think um, so. When we think about, again, kind of how do we impact, because we're not providing those direct services. Um, for us, the other thing we keep in front of us are like, what are the dynamics? What are the pain points? What are the things our customers are going through that we can help solve through technology, right? And so when you look at the industry that we're surveying, there's a couple of things that are, um, pretty significant pain points. So one is there's a huge demand. So there's over 2 million individuals under the age of 18 um, that are impacted, and there's almost 6 million above the age of 18 who are impacted. But the number of therapists available to kind of um, work with those individuals, um, there's less than half of the number of therapists that are needed to work with the individuals today. And that number of individuals is growing by 9 to 10% a year because the prevalence rate
Hmm.
continues to go up. So you have a big unmet need, and a significant capacity constraint.
Yeah.
And so that, has been a hallmark since I started here in 2018, and since the business has been in kind of the business has been in existence since 2012. Um, and and so that's, something first and foremost we keep in front of us. The second big thing is that as payers have gotten more involved, the compliance needs, the complexity of kind of meeting those compliance needs, the number of audits, all those kind of regulatory constraints have increased, just like they have across all of healthcare. But that takes away from the ability, the capacity, basically, because now you're spending time doing audits and paper trails and other things that you need to do, but it's taking time away from working with the kids, which is what, you were there to do first. Um, and then in addition to that, this is a very data-driven, but very individualized kind of treatment protocol.
Yeah.
And so finding ways to really understand what moves the needle um, is really important, but is very difficult. And so helping our customers try to understand how can they improve outcomes, like based on an assessment of a child or an individual, what are the protocols, what are the curriculum, what are the ways I can work with this individual to really accelerate that outcome. And so we're in a unique position to kind of help with that. But those at the end of the day are three of the big issues. And then, the fourth, which kind of goes back to capacity constraint, is there's a huge amount of turnover at the what they call the behavioral technician level, the person who's working with the individual directly, and it's because it's a really hard job.
Yeah.
It's an hourly job. It's a job that is very challenging.
Emotionally.
And so there's a huge amount of turnover, which adds a lot of cost to our customers' business. It adds complexity to their business. It impacts outcomes. It basically impacts everything.
Yeah.
And so those, there's a number of other things that are going on. But at the end of the day, those are the big ones. And so when we think about AI, and Dave can kind of chime in as we talk about some of those individual solutions, our solutions really are geared to how do we leverage AI, how do we use tools to enable AI to accelerate our ability to create solutions for these key pain points. So all of the AI initiatives that we have, I call them foundational AI initiatives, are really geared towards how do we help mitigate some of the capacity constraint? How do we help our customers deal with the turnover issue and materially reduce the impact that has, materially reduce that? How do we help them increase margins, revenue, cash flow, which in a lower margin service business is critically important? And then how do we help them connect the dots between the assessment, the protocols, and curriculum, and the data that they've collected, the output, to help really drive outcomes over the long run. And so that's where we're squarely kind of focused on. And I think the faster we can roll out these solutions, the more impact we can have on the market, and the more impact we can have our customers with us on the community that we serve. And so we're in a mad rush to kind of get these products out and to get them in the hands of as many customers as quickly as possible as we can.
That's a great story, and it's really interesting that AI is frequently talked about as a way to enhance capacity, and in other industries, really the conversation is around how do I take capacity that's currently deployed on something that can be automated and use it for higher order activities. In finance, it's analysts should spend less time copying data, more time thinking. But in your space, in the autism and IDD space, it's actually a shortage of capacity. It's not, you're not thinking how to be more efficient. We're just thinking how to service the current needs, which is pretty.
Yeah, I would say we're trying to increase span of control, or the span of impact, if you will, to create capacity. So we're using AI to boost the existing workforce to allow them to do more, impact more lives, and do it in a way that either is, I would say, quality neutral, but in most cases actually improve quality at the same time.
Quality plus. I think with the to that extent, it's really around reducing as much as possible the administrative burden of the clinical folks who need to go, and just as we were talking earlier, FaceTime is so important. Well, it's critical in this industry, and maximizing face time with your clients and the patients you're working with is very important to the outcomes that they generate. So if we're able to reduce administrative burden with some of these tools and AI initiatives and gives them more time to spend not just with their clients, but in that the technician role, you're basically, if we can create more capacity for the supervision of those by the clinicians, well, then we can kind of do two things at once. We can increase efficiencies operationally, but also because now you can pay more attention clinically, we can actually boost the quality as well at the same time. So it's actually a 2-for-1 almost with these tools. And that's kind of how we've been approaching all of the things that we've been building, is like it's not just a financial or an efficiency or operations thing. It's like, how does this connect back to the actual service delivery and make more bandwidth for those clinicians to spend more focused and directed time with their clients,
and better outcomes as a
and then
result.
better outcomes result, right?
Yeah.
And so the other thing that you kind of mentioned earlier was on the individualization. That's a very hard thing to do at scale, right? And what we see is a lot of times people will just kind of take templates that they made for one child and they copy it over to this child, and we start. And that's really kind of, while it works, it's not optimal because it wasn't really individualized. Those treatment plans aren't really individualized. And it's a lot of, like you said about the research analyst and financial, you're taking a lot of data over here and you're kind of putting it over to this format. And so we think that, AI offers a lot of opportunities to help facilitate that process, not replace that process, but to facilitate quickly triaging all that information that needs to go into an individualized treatment plan and putting that tool into the hand of that clinician who can use their expertise, that human in the loop, to make sure that it's what they want, but it's somebody filling in the blanks for that.
Yeah,
right?
So it gets them most of the way there.
100%. And because now we made that time that may have taken you 40 hours to do a completely individualized treatment plan. By the way, you only get 8 hours to do this from the insurance companies, but it takes about 40 hours to do well. Well, maybe we can cut that down. Maybe we can't get it down to 8 hours, but we can get it down to 16 hours, right? And now you have a very unique, individualized treatment plan, and it took you a lot less time to do.
So one of the things I think, for us, and I feel like in general, this is the way it should work. And sometimes I think we put as technologists, you put the cart ahead of the horse, which is like, I have a tool like AI. Let me figure out, how do I deploy it, right? It can do this cool thing that I just figured out, like, why don't I create something and then I'll see if customers care.
Right.
And I think for us, what AI provides is the ability to get from point A to point Z much, much faster, right?
Yeah.
But point Z, we were going to get to no matter what.
Right.
We either write the code ourselves and do all the work, or we can take, frankly, a value-added shortcut by deploying AI to simplify and shorten the amount of code that we need to deploy, and we can get to Z,
faster.
within a matter of weeks or months versus, months and years.
Yeah.
But we're solving a business problem. We're not using AI just to say we have AI. We're literally saying, here's the business problem we need to solve. This one AI can make an impact on, and we have, 100+ engineers who are working on other stuff where it doesn't make sense to go using all, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not an all or nothing kind of thing for us. It's really trying to be strategic and to use the tools that we have to really shorten the development time and the time to impact the lives that are being served.
That makes total sense. And where we see most success with AI use cases is really where it's thought about it in this way, where you use AI to shorten, optimize, to kind of solve specific problems along the journey, rather than blanket AI. That generally doesn't lead to much. So I think you guys approached it in a very strategic and meaningful way. And so I had maybe change kind of direction a bit here on the conversation. When did you start the journey on AI, and how did you decide to pull Dave into it? Sorry to put you on the spot here.
No, it's a good question. Well, I think we started, it was what, 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah.
Well, before that, like AI took over machine learning, which took over data statistics.
Yeah.
So before that, we were working on algorithms for scheduling and things like that. But when it really hit in 2022, when ChatGPT came out,
Yeah.
And it was like, wow,
Yeah.
these things are actually getting to a level of, they're no longer like toys that the
Yeah.
data scientists are playing with. They're actually able to do some
Yeah.
things. And it became interesting.
Yeah. And so we had a relatively rapid journey, I would say, from that point forward. But we started with, hey, this is pretty cool, and we
Right.
think there's some interesting
There's something here.
applications. Thankfully, Dave and several others in the company were, um, already trying things and testing, and like, oh my gosh, I can kind of see how this could help us in certain areas. And so. Um, what we first did was just say, let's define some POCs and let's try some things out. So
Right.
we didn't have an AI group. Dave was actually running another business that we had within the company where we thought there was a lot of application for AI.
Right.
So a natural kind of he naturally like stepped up into, I'll say, a leadership
Mhm.
position on the POCs because a lot of the POCs were within, it was content creation and
Mhm.
delivery, and the ability to like accelerate what we were doing there was pretty impactful. And some of the chat features and functionality we saw some applications for. Um, and so as we started to kind of see those POCs mature, we got some customer feedback. Um, it really, for me, uh, made me feel like, hey, there's something real here. This can be impactful. Um, but the challenge is, how do we incubate something in a scale up like ours? So we've got 400 employees. Everybody's got their jobs. We have
Right.
centralized things that need to be done. We got processes, and all that stuff is great.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a disruptive, frankly, technology like this, um, my view, and we've done a number of acquisitions and other things, and there's some similarities to it. You
Mhm.
need to like kind of keep it
Carve
away
it
from
out.
the
Yeah.
machine
Yeah.
and let it like grow and get some
Yeah.
legs on its own, because otherwise it just gets trampled, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh, and you end up like not ever getting to where you need it to go. And um, so there was a twofold thing. I think one was the um, fact that the POCs actually showed real meaningful progress, and two, the thought that we need to incubate this outside. And then the choice was, okay, well, who should we ask to kind of lead that? And so certainly it's a hot
Yeah. Yeah. It's
technology and
everyone
it's a
wants to
fun
involve.
thing, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, hey, what about me? Like, I could do
Yeah.
it. And so that's always a challenge, is finding the right person. I think in this case, Dave came to us through an acquisition. It was our first acquisition, and have strategically deployed him to scale a number of initiatives as an entrepreneur, I guess, here. And I felt like he had the right combination of, you need somebody that's got an understanding of tech, somebody with a real entrepreneurial bend and a willingness to kind of, break some rules and do things that need to be done. And frankly, their view of time needs to be much shorter than
Yeah.
a normal person in terms
Dave's is
of like,
particularly
yeah,
short.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
I blame that on my ADHD.
Yeah.
It's very short attention span.
that, led me to say, hey, like, let's formalize this. Let's put Dave here. We give him a very small team, and my task was, this is great that we have a number of POCs, but let's actually find some real products that can scale,
Yeah.
right? What are the products? And let's get behind those to show that we can make progress. And then let's continue to kind of roll out new products as opposed to just dabble.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. So our first product is within our small business area. Um, and it was really driven, frankly, by another team that Dave was kind of working with, but our small business kind of leadership team. And that product got rolled out. Customers loved it. It became kind of the basis of some enterprise products that we had. Um, and so that was kind of the first.
Hmm.
And then the second was really what we call Note Guard today. And it really is a product designed to kind of help our customers audit session notes and create session notes and frankly audit proof their business, which
Yeah.
given what I mentioned before is really helpful and impactful. And um, so as we found products that scaled, Dave got more resources and we continued to kind of go. The other part of it, which I think we can talk about and should talk about as well, is like the tooling that you need to kind of bring these things to life.
Yeah.
It's not so easy as just going, well, just plug into OpenAI, like make
Right.
it work, right? It just doesn't,
Yeah.
especially when you have an enterprise product and you've got a lot of things that, um, which help benefit us, right? Data in different places. You got systems, that
Yeah.
we already have in place as a market leader that we can tap into. Um, we want to, not create point systems that are not integrated, but at the same time, we don't want it so fully embedded that it bogs us down. And so I think having a dedicated group that can kind of explore, okay, what are the tools and the tech that's out there? Let's pilot different things
Yeah.
and let's see what can help us kind of get to market faster. Um, and then I think the secret sauce, which again is always a challenge, but I feel like we're working through it, is once you have a group, you still have to like have that group play
Build that
nice with
back end.
everything else.
Yeah.
Because the key to making this all work is to take what you develop and then figure out, how do you get that kind of built into the machine and let the machine then take over so that we can then innovate in other areas. And um, so I don't know, longer answer
No,
than
no,
you were
it's
looking
great.
for,
This
but
is I'm just
yeah.
learning, absorbing. I have two more questions and can do them in any order. One is for our sales and marketing teams. We'd love to hear from both of you how you think about Shakudo and what kind of impact it had on this process.
Yep.
And then the second question is for both of you, but it's different perspectives. You have the CEO perspective and the technology's product perspective. How do you see AI impacting, well, at least the autism and IDD space, but maybe broadly healthcare over the next few years? And this really helps, I think, people who are building AI products like us to know what we should be working towards, right? So either question can
I'll
go
give you
for.
the high level on Shakudo, and then Dave, I
Yeah.
think, should kind of carry the ball on that one. But I think for me, just going back to what we talked about earlier, like time to market is critically important.
Yeah.
And I think, what I've seen from my seat and what I feel like Shakudo has been super impactful with is the platforms allowed us
Mhm.
to kind of pull all these disparate pieces that are all valuable together and give us a platform that allows us to accelerate the way that they work together, accelerate the transparency and visibility that we have, and accelerate time to market. And then, what I've also really appreciated is everybody internally, as well as, it seems like the world at large, like we're all learning as we
Mhm.
go. And so the ability to kind of have your team, engineers, support people, I'll say semi-embedded on our
Yeah.
team and shoulder to shoulder with Dave and his team, has been hugely helpful to allow us to kind of make the most of the tool.
That's great to
And
hear.
so that's from my perspective, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, I'll
That's
double
awesome.
click on that one. Just going back earlier to a conversation, when I was running the Sierra Institute, which is the other business unit, quickly became apparent that these AI tools were going to allow the subject matter experts, the business folks, to really kind of push into, I don't want to say the development domain, but the solutioning domain of
Hmm.
creating solutions themselves, where they used to not have this capability. They had to write requirements and send it off to an engineering team and then go through all that motion. And what I saw is like, clinicians that really understand the science of ABA were able to use these tools very quickly to solve their own problems. So like, wow, the world really is transforming. And if you really do understand what you want, there are now tools to help you get it without having to go through that traditional software development lifecycle. Now, you still need to do that, and it's still very important. But in terms of rapidly prototyping and kind of pathfinding on what is out there that we can
Product
do,
market fit, right?
it's you can very quickly find some product market fit, and we were able to do that because of the fact that the SMEs and the business folks were able to actually do a lot of this up front before thinking about requirements and all that stuff. So it's the old adage that picture's worth 1,000 words, a movie's worth a million, but a prototype, that's priceless, right?
Right.
Like, so
Yeah.
so that's where this kind of started. And as we know that we were going to have to ramp up on our prototypes, like to the Shakudo team and to you, it's like we started down a path going with some of the big companies like AWS, and they're amazing and they're awesome, but they're they lag behind kind of where the point solutions are, as they kind of everybody pokes around and finds where the best of breed, the leading edge, if you will. And so quickly became apparent that if we went down that sort of old legacy path, we were going to be hamstrung in terms of our ability to quickly deliver and do POCs. And so I started searching for platforms, and that's where we got connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And being able to leverage these open source tools and kind of throw them out if they're not working for us, and try something else very rapidly, sometimes twice, 2 times a day.
Yeah.
No, that didn't work. I need to know. And you guys have been so responsive for us to allow us to really kind of move at that very quick pace, where I can quickly go deep on something, realize that we're going to be stuck in a box I don't want to be in, or it's not going to meet a need, and then being able to say, all right, I'm going to try this other way, because I'm trying to find product market fit, trying to find that customer value as quickly as possible, because we look here, there's that 1.2 million sessions started in the last 7 days. That probably needs to be 3 million, right?
Yeah.
And how are we going to move that number? And it's only by moving very quickly to get these tools into our customers' hands are we going to be able to do that. Because it takes a lot of time to mint new behavior analysts. It's a 2 years master's program. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen to do that. And while university programs in the industry is working on that, it's going to take a long time for the people to catch up. And so the only way to do this is to fill the gaps with technology in an ethical and compliant way.
Yeah, secure, compliant.
Yeah.
And to your credit, what the team at CentralReach has done is pretty incredible. It seems like you've pulled in change agents from various business units and teams and put together this SWAT team. I don't know how to call it, but they've just cut through all the the obstacles and delivered. And we were just watching this kind of, it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're lucky. We have really good people.
We have
all
amazing
across
people.
the
They really
all across
understand the
the board.
businesses. They understand the admin side. We have people on the practice side, people that have been doing RCM since 2012 when insurance reform started kicking in and the company was formed. And so we really have deep expertise in a lot of these domains. And what I see is the AI tools allowing us to do is kind of free that.
Yeah.
And because it's always hard to translate what they know they need to do into requirements that go to developers, that go into QA, that get shipped, that get refined through this process. And that just takes time, right? And if we're able to get these subject matter experts closer to the delivery and closer to defining what they want and being able to play with it before, right? Because who knows how something's going to work when you make it up, but be able to test it and touch it. Like, oh no, this doesn't work here. It doesn't work there.
It helps you save weeks or months.
So much time. It makes so much time,
Yeah.
So.
This is great. Really appreciate the discussion and just the thoughts on how you see Shakudo. Maybe to wrap things up, would love to hear from both of you, maybe from the CEO perspective and from the technology product perspective, where you see AI going in the next few years in your space, right? Or the space that you kind of feel where AI is going to have the most impact.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think if anybody can really answer that accurately, then you
All
should
the VCs
invest behind that, whoever that person is. So I mean, I'll say kind of, we've taken an approach, and we're simple people at the end of the day, which is, when we looked at the portfolio of things as like problems we can solve, right? Our focus, we basically framed it out to say, in very simple terms, there's the crawling, the walking, and the running, right? And on the two dimensions that we look at, there's how hard is it to implement, right? And the other one is like, how much potential, I'll say, change or pushback, or uh, hurdles do we need to overcome from a client and a customer perspective, right? And so you look at the two quadrants of like hard to do and high hurdles to overcome, and you could put replace clinicians with AI,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
I mean, we're not focused on that at all,
Right.
and I don't know if we ever will be, because I don't know. Our kind of strategy and our philosophy with AI is to provide an AI boost to the
Yeah.
workforce, not to replicate and not to replace it, because there's not enough folks anyway. And I think that human touch and um, the decision making capability, I think, is critically kind of important. We just want to enable them to take all the other stuff off their plate and allow them to kind of be able to use kind of that high level function at scale, to help really drive more outcomes faster in a better way. Um, and so our focus has been on the crawl, which is a lot of administrative tasks, things that need to be done, writing session notes and other things where you're just taking data, you're
Yeah.
describing what it is. Um, and, it takes a lot of time. And frankly, when people are doing the task, they're not QAing the task. And you change it from this is a doing task to a QA task,
Yeah.
right? And that's where the quality goes up,
Yeah.
even though you're getting more efficient. And um, so for us in autism, like I think there's so much of that, like that's going to be a big focus of ours for a while.
Yeah.
And I think as the AI tools evolve, we can start to move into the walk-in area, and allow maybe some of the clinical aspects of what goes on, um, to be to have an initial cut at it by the AI, and then move that to more of a QA of
Yeah.
what goes on. Um, and so if you look at it across the broader healthcare spectrum, I feel like it's probably not much different. Like if I
Yeah.
was in a different domain, I would do the same thing, which is like, let's automate all this like kind of tasks that need to be done, processing claims, checking claims before we
Right.
process them, making sure they have the right data. Like there's so much inefficiency that can be uh, kind of taken out of the equation from a healthcare perspective, that isn't like controversial.
Okay.
And AI is really, frankly, better positioned to do. I mean, we talk about this all the time. I use the same use case all the time, but there's a payer that requires, it's not all payers, just one. For every hour of service, there needs to be 3 sentences written,
Okay.
right? How is a human hourly BCBA who's been on the job for, 3 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, remember that, oh, I'm with this payer. They need 3 sentences. This payer doesn't need 3 sentences. This payer needs some, like, how?
Yeah.
It's impossible,
Impossible.
right? And so that's where you can leverage like AI to kind of do more.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go for the, you know, monster,
Yeah.
kind of, I'm going to change the entire world and like get away with all the people. Now, different industries might be different. That's
Yeah,
why.
no, so like, the same thing here, and just to lean on that more is like really if you have a standard operating procedure, and
Yeah.
it requires humans to sort of follow that procedure or that checklist, this is a perfect opportunity for AI to come back and make sure that you are following that checklist, right? And
Yeah.
so to your earlier point of trying to codify all this stuff, like for all of these nuances and all these different things, like take us a long time to do it by hand, but if we can just feed a natural language, standard operating procedure and saying, hey, here are my standard, this is my standards. I need you to just go apply that and QA that, and then prompt the individuals where they're, deficient or they're missing something. Like that moves the needle for a lot of people, very
For
quickly.
sure.
And so there's a lot of that over the next year or two to do. And at the end of the day, what do we see in, 3 years? I don't know. I do know that we're going to have a lot more AI. Like
Yeah.
that's for sure. You think with Apple and Google embedding it in our phones,
Yeah.
as a service, it's going to change a lot.
So, Chris, Dave, thank you so much for the chance to talk to both of you. It's always amazing to learn from folks like yourselves, and the opportunity to work with CentralReach has been amazing for Shakudo. So we're grateful for that, but also looking forward to the long-term partnership between our businesses.
No, well, we appreciate, you coming, and it was a great conversation. And most of all, we appreciate the support and what you tools have been able to do to help us, help our customers really make an impact on the lives that we're serving. So thank you.
Amazing.